because I've been following on Facebook Ginny Morgan's adventure. Now, I've known Ginny and her husband Alfie probably about 25 years. I'm figuring about 25 years.
I'd say at least.
Yeah. Because I used to do wedding videos, and I was a wedding minister for years. And Ginny would be out there with her beautiful long hair. Can we show them the braid, how long it is on Facebook? That's long hair, folks. How long is your hair, Ginny?
Well, I'm not sure, but it comes down to my ankles when it's not braided. So,
And Ginny is an amazing harpist. How many harps do you own, Ginny?
I have 12 at home, one for each occasion, I like to say.
That's awesome. And your husband and you both have are concert level, really great musicians, right? And I've heard you play it, and you're amazing. And
well,
people do not realize how difficult it is trying to play a harp on a beach on either a hot day or a rainy day.
Or a windy day. All of the above.
All of the above. And you've been doing it for how many years?
29 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
You deserve some kind of award for that, Jenny. I mean, you really do. But the reason I wanted to talk to you today is that you have an amazing story, and it's even more amazing than I realized. I started seeing pictures of your trip to Egypt, and I couldn't believe how fantastic these pictures of this trip to Egypt was. You had a dream vacation to Egypt, but also beyond. And then you did it back to back. You weren't home more than a few weeks, and then you went on to Ireland, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
I mean, what an amazing adventure.
Yeah.
So, and you, how long did it take you to plan this amazing trip, and how long was each trip?
Egypt was about 2 weeks, and it didn't take too long. I'm trying to think, maybe about 6 months or so. But we did it all, 2 of us, for 2 weeks in Egypt for $3,000.
Wow.
Now that's not flying there. The airplane flight was more, but I'm added to it. But this is just the ground trip. So we had the best trip ever. I know a man that from having been in Amman, Jordan before, who does travel arrangements, and I wrote to him and I said, "Can you line up a trip for us in Egypt?" And he wrote back, and he gave me a whole itinerary. It was fantastic.
Is this a local person, or
it was a local
not
person?
David Corson, is it? Oh, okay, because I know David does these trips to those areas.
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
it was great, and
you stayed at the most amazing bed and breakfast in Cairo that I've ever seen. It was right there in front of the pyramids.
Yes, and that was $60 a night, which is wonderful.
Oh my gosh!
You can find it on Booking.com if you go on and look at things for Egypt, places to stay.
I can't believe you stayed for $60 a night.
And that was with breakfast. And they fixed us dinner each night. We paid for that, but at least we had a place to come home to dinner.
It
we
was
didn't eat
right
out.
there, right? I mean, I saw the views, and I could not believe the best views.
It's right next to the Great Pyramids.
Amazing.
So,
What was the name of the place? Oh, you can't remember.
Atlantis Pyramids Inn.
Atlantis Pyramids Inn. Something to remember.
Oh, definitely. And the folks were so friendly. They treated us like family. It was indeed a family house. So it was like living with a family, and that was great.
Any language barriers?
No, they spoke English very well. Now, most Egyptians do, I found.
And you got to go in the pyramids, too, and you had some special trips right into the pyramids as well, right?
Oh, yeah. They provided... At the Atlantis Pyramids Inn, they provided a tour guide with us to take us around, but they knew all the ins and outs because they lived there.
Oh my gosh.
So they knew exactly where to go and exactly when to go, and we avoided all the crowds. And it turns out that there's all kinds of other things to see right in that pyramid region when you go there. The 3 pyramids are one thing, but as well there's a whole buried city underneath the sand that's right there that hasn't even been excavated, and you can see people have been poking around in it, and
Did you get to go down there?
Yes, and they took us through that. The guide did. He was so much fun, and we crawled in through all these holes. And
there's some theories that thing is maybe 2,000 years old, and that maybe even the Essenes years ago used that, and that people used that years and years ago to get in and out secretly into Cairo.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see that.
Tons of tunnels, and we saw writings on the wall. You know how they have the pictures on the wall that haven't been excavated yet. The authorities haven't seen them yet. There was a sarcophagus, and it was all very exciting. I like those kind of things.
Wow,
but,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Did you do the street fairs and go wandering around the streets of Cairo?
Yeah.
I have to ask this question. I mean, of course, I've been to Egypt twice, and I love Egypt. I feel very aligned with it. There's still fear in some Americans' minds and emotions, I guess, that they think it's dangerous. Did you sense anything about that?
Not at all. Not at all. I think that's overblown. I know there are problems in that general Mideast, okay, but I think Egypt, I felt very secure and very safe, and the people were so friendly and happy to see tourists because their tourism has suffered greatly.
Did you see that in the markets, and when you were wandering around, did you see the fact that there were a lot of people that were not being able to work? Did you experience it when you were in the marketplaces and everything?
Yeah, and the guides that we had wanted us as Americans to go back and tell all our friends, please come to Egypt, that it's safe and don't be afraid, and so I didn't feel the least bit fear. I didn't see anything that was disconcerting or scary or anything like that. It's like traveling anywhere. You have to be aware and kind of watch, and especially when you're not in your culture, you have to make sure that you're, you know what I mean, not insulting their culture somehow.
Right.
But other than that, I didn't feel afraid at all. And
they haven't opened that new museum, but you probably
we saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be huge, right?
Oh, it's huge. And if you've been to Egypt, you know how much stuff is in things. Archaeology is already in the
but it is overcrowded.
It's overcrowded and it's overflowing.
It's dusty and it's dark and it's hard to see in the old museum. And I heard it was damaged. Some of the stuff was damaged after the riots they did have. Was that 5 years ago?
Yeah, something like that.
So now they're building this new one, and oh my gosh, I want to go when it's open. It's supposed to be next year, right?
Yeah. And they're planning a big to-do about that. They're going to have, in that Valley of the Kings, they're going to do the up against Hatshepsut's tomb, that big thing out there. They're going to do a Aida, the opera. And they've invited I can't remember which orchestra, but an orchestra is coming from Europe, and it's a big thing. They're going to do the whole opera of Aida.
Wow, will that be amazing or what?
And they're planning big. I'd love to be there for all that.
Oh, yeah, maybe you could play for it.
Wouldn't that be something?
Oh, it would be absolutely amazing. So tell us what else you did besides going in the pyramid.
Well, our main goal in Egypt was just to see the archaeology and try to understand a bit more about the history and things. And do you mean in Egypt?
Yeah, in Cairo.
Okay. We went to other pyramids. It turns out there's other pyramids, which I guess I didn't really know that. But there's like 197 other pyramids in all of Egypt. So the three that you see, the iconic three, are not just the end of it. So we went to some of the others. We went up to see the Citadel, Saladin Citadel. We saw the downtown of Cairo. We also went to Luxor.
That's one of my favorite places in the world.
Yes.
There's energy and power there that is amazing.
Oh, yes.
I mean, when you're in Luxor, you feel like you are literally back in time a couple thousand years ago, right?
Mm-hmm. It's all right there.
Yeah.
The archaeology, it's like you don't have to make it up and say, well, maybe this happened here, because it's there.
It is, when I stand in front, and you stand in front and look up, because a lot of these amazing statues tower over you.
Right.
And you just are literally transformed and transfixed. I feel this energy coming from those beautiful structures still. And I was lucky to be there one time where they had, I don't know, maybe they were there when you did the light show. Did they have the light show at night?
Yes.
Did you see that?
Yes, we saw that.
It's an amazing light show you can see. And I was there during the eclipse of a full moon, and it was just amazingly magical.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did you do that by how did you get to Luxor?
We flew. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And did you go to any other places around there?
There was a couple of other tombs and temples that we went to nearby Luxor. I hate to say I can't remember the names right off, but they were beautiful as well. They had beautiful archaeology and carvings and colors and things inside of them.
So there's another part. Let's open the chapter to another. Let's open the pages to another chapter. And there's another chapter that is fascinating and I didn't know it, and I don't know if you posted about it, but you've got a son who is an amazing son, one to be very proud of. I might add. Right. And his name is
Matthew Spangler.
And Matthew is a professor.
Right.
At USC in
San Jose.
In San Jose.
Yeah.
And one thing I didn't know is that he is an amazing playwright as well.
Yes. Yes.
And he specializes in a very particular kind of writing, right?
Right. Right. His specialty is immigration stories and stories about immigrants. In fact, I have to put in a little plug for him here. Vinnie Linares is producing one of my son's plays called Tortilla Curtain. And this will be on at the McCoy August 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. It's coming right up. Mm-hmm. You can get tickets. Tortilla Curtain, of course, is very contemporary. It's about, well, essentially the lives of Mexican immigrants. This is a talking point today. So see the play and talk about it.
Well, we all probably have heard and remember the amazing novel that was on the top bestseller list of New York Times for ages, which was The Kite Runner.
Right.
And I can't pronounce and remember the name of the author, but you know what the name
is. Oh,
is.
yes. Khaled Hosseini.
Somehow, your son, Matthew, being a playwright, reached out to Khaled and asked him if he could do a play about the Kite Runner, make it into a play.
Right.
And got permission.
Right.
And did this play on the Kite Runner, which is showing now, right?
Right. Right. In England, you can see it. It's going on tour of England. It's been to Ireland. It's been on the West End of England, which is kind of equivalent to our Broadway here.
Is it done Broadway yet?
Not our Broadway, but it's done the West End.
I'm surprised it hasn't been in Broadway yet.
Well, maybe, hopefully, it might come.
So somehow with this amazing production of The Kite Runner, there was a connection made to show it in Palestine.
Well, this is a new play he's writing. It isn't The Kite Runner.
Oh, I thought it was The Kite Runner.
The Kite Runner is being produced in Israel right now as we talk.
Really?
So Israel is doing The Kite Runner, but Palestine, the West Bank, wants to do a new play about a refugee from Lebanon. I can't remember the name of the book, but it's based on a very popular book at this period of time. So the Palestinian National Theater, which is there, the director of it, asked my son, commissioned him to write this play based on this book, based on his success with the Kite Runner in Israel. Uh-huh. So we went to Israel, well, the West Bank, to talk to her and just kind of I shouldn't say we, I was sort of like a tag-along, to talk.
This is my mom.
Yeah, well.
This is my mom, Ginny, from Maui, right?
Yeah. Well, that's a selling point, let me tell you.
I know
Maui.
it is. It is.
I invite everybody to come and visit me, and they're all excited. But anyway, so we went there. We decided to come in through Jordan because my son had a little problem getting in through Tel Aviv, the airport at Tel Aviv, last time he tried to go there.
It's the toughest place in the world,
and he was a little concerned, so we said, why don't we try to go over land and just come in the bridge, the Allenby Bridge, from Jordan. So we did. We met up, after the Egypt trip, we met up into Amman, which is in Jordan, and we took a few days to tour Petra and also the Dead Sea.
I want to go to Petra. Is it as beautiful as it looks in pictures?
It is, and
Did you do the camel ride?
Yep. Oh, it's fantastic. I love Petra. Anyway, so then we went over the border. Well, we had just as much trouble. They let me in, no problem. They looked at me.
Is your son on a hot list?
We're beginning to wonder.
Yeah.
Because they looked at his passport, and then they said, why are you here? And he said, oh, well, I'm writing a play for the Palestinian National Theater, and that was it. And they brought him into an interrogation room, and 2.5 hours later, they let him go. But of course,
maybe you should just say he was writing a play and not for the Palestinian.
I know, it's a catch-22, because if they ever find out the truth. Well, anyway, it's like... Anyway.
But that must have been angst-ridden 2 hours.
Yeah, here's Mom, me, waiting outside the door going, what'd you do with my son?
Yeah.
Where is he? I tried to go back in at one point.
Oh, you can't mess with the Israeli security is the tightest in the world.
They are, and they were very, very mean about it.
Yeah, they
weren't
can
even
be
nice,
mean. Yeah.
You know.
No, I'll tell you my story about what happened. When I was in Israel, I was going from Israel to Egypt years ago, and I was told you never should do that, right? And so they did like a 2.5 hour. They go through all your luggage, yada yada yada. I finally got on the bus to go to the plane to go to Egypt, and on the bus, a guy, the swarthy-looking guy, came up to me. I had an open leather briefcase, and he placed what looked just like a pipe bomb. I've never seen a pipe bomb in my briefcase, and they were about to take off on the bus to the plane. I said, "No, no, no!" I'm screaming, "No, stop! You know." And they want to know what's going on. I said, this man's placed a pipe bomb, and here it is, it's in my thing. And I literally took it out and tried to hand it to him. Then they said, you've got the pipe bomb, not him.
Oh.
They took me off the bus, right? Oh. And it was like another 2.5 hours later explaining, no, I didn't, this man did.
Oh, how awful.
And they never quite told me what. They finally let me off, and I said, what is going on? I need to know what is going on. They said, oh, it was just we do these tests from time to time. I go, what?
I know, I was just going to say that. Random
so then
test.
I get on the plane to go, and they have guys sitting behind me from their security. On the plane ride over. It was scary. I mean, that was a scary. I've never had an experience like that before in my life.
That would have, I don't know what I would have done.
No, it's like, what do you do, right?
I was disconcerted enough because they had my son, you know.
So he finally gets free, and then then what happens?
Okay, so then we had a driver that picked us up there and took us to the West Bank. But the funny thing is, from Jordan to the West Bank, you are in the West Bank.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you have to go through Israel territory.
It's the West Bank.
It's the West Bank, but you have to go, Israel has a border there, so...
So you have to go through the Israeli security to get into Palestine, even though it's the West Bank, right?
Anyway, we went to the West Bank, and we met with the woman that was in charge of the National Theater, and we had a great talk, and we saw the theater, and he worked a little bit with the actors that might, be in his play and kind of reading through the play and talking about it, maybe some of the points of the book, how to understand the Lebanese perspective, or anyway, it would help him in writing his play. He hasn't written it yet. But this was all kind of like the prelude.
The commission.
The commission. It's going to be performed next March.
That'll be interesting.
Oh, I would love to go
So which
back.
way are you going to get into?
I know. We're going to have to be like dropped in by helicopter or something.
That could be more dangerous.
I asked, we had lunch or had dinner with her, the Palestinian National Theater director, and her husband works for the United Nations.
Oh, really? My gosh.
So we had a dinner with him, and I pointedly asked him, so why isn't America doing anything about this poor condition in the West Bank and also the occupied territories? I said, what are we doing as Americans, And he said, nothing. There's nothing to be done. He said, nobody will go up against America.
Wow.
To even the United Nations.
Was it shocking seeing the conditions there?
Oh, I can't even begin to tell you. Now I'd read about it. Like all Americans, I'd read about it and read about all the problems and all about the violence and all about this and that. But the best thing I can say without going into too much political discussion is that we have no clue. Americans, we have no clue. It's 100 times worse than what you think.
Really? Wow.
And that must
have been heartbreaking.
It was.
Yeah.
I have never... in my life, and not that I've been everywhere in the world, but I have never in my life seen human beings, treated as poorly.
Wow.
As that.
So that probably touched your son doing this play. The situation, seeing that is going to be something...
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah, and there's no way you see video and stories all the time, but...
When you talk to the people and actually see with your own eyes what's going on, and even driving in today to do this interview, there was a little report on NPR. And they were talking to somebody from the Trump administration about the new deal of the century. I don't know if you've heard about that. And Trump and his son, Kushner, are trying to put together a great deal that's going to solve the Mideast or the Israeli-Palestinian problem. And I listened to the official American
version
playbook.
Yes.
And having been there, I just thought, no,
Yeah.
No, you have no clue.
Yeah.
You need to be there.
Did you feel scared? I mean, that is a dangerous place to be. And that more than Cairo, of course,
Yes,
is
yes.
a dangerous place to be.
Oh, Jerusalem itself, right in the old city, which I had never been to. There were armed guards wandering around with submachine guns.
Yeah.
Through the streets.
Yeah.
I mean,
but in Palestine, it's more dangerous.
I would have to say no.
Really?
Yeah.
But Jerusalem and Israel's all contained. They have security that keeps them from getting the bombs hit with that. And Palestine doesn't. So, I mean, I think a lot more damage and deaths have happened in Palestine.
Well, it has.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't fear the Palestinians, if
really?
that's what you mean.
No, but attacks from Israel into Palestine.
Yes, and indeed, at the end of Ramadan, which we were there during Ramadan, which is a real kind of a fun thing, because after Ramadan is over, at the night they have a big
feast.
Eating feast,
yes.
which was fun. So anyway, I was in my hotel room, and about 11 o'clock, and a cannon went off. I nearly had a heart attack because I thought it was a bombing or something.
Oh, yeah.
But in the end, it turned out to be the end of Ramadan, and they were just telling everybody, "Oh, you can go ahead and eat now."
Oh.
And I thought,
yes, scary.
Okay. that was the only time I felt scared.
So you went from Palestine back over into Israel? Or did you go to Israel first to Palestine?
We were only in Israel as far as going into Jerusalem.
Yeah. And did you get there, but was Palestine before going in Jerusalem? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we went through the West Bank.
Was there was no problem getting out of Palestine into Jerusalem?
No.
Just going in?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that is, and I do think everyone should visit Jerusalem.
Oh, boy.
There's no place like that as far as, I mean, the historical aspects of it and the Wailing. I'm sure you went to the Wailing Wall, right?
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
I guess what amazed me was that there are 3 major religions fighting over an amount. It's
tiny.
1/2 mile across.
Yeah.
That's what. 1/2 mile in diameter. And it's almost a circle.
And this battle's been going on
Yes.
for thousands of years.
Yes.
And you know, it's to solve it. Everyone's thought of trying to solve it, and it's one of those awful situations where everyone has their own beliefs, and they're not going to change
There
their
is
beliefs.
no solution to this.
Yeah.
Despite Trump's big, deal of the century, it's a puzzle without an answer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
as long as people are grounded in, well, I won't go too far down that road.
Yeah, but you're right. It's
it is.
Yeah.
Now there was another aspect of this whole trip, because you've already gone and spent 2 weeks in Egypt, in Cairo.
Another
mainly.
2 weeks in
and
Amman.
2 weeks in where?
Well, one in Amman and then one in Jerusalem. So it was about another 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't mention that at the start of this trip, it's like everyone's nightmare, right? At the start of this trip, the day you were supposed to, was it 2 days before you're supposed to go?
Right. It was about a week.
Was it a week? Your husband, Alfie, had an accident.
Right. Men with tools. At some point, you got to take their playthings away.
What happened? I have to mention, if you don't know, if you're just tuning, I'm talking to Ginny Morgan, who's an amazing harpist. Her husband, Alfie, is an amazing flautist. And so he was playing with an axe, and what happened?
He was chopping wood with an axe. He tells me it was some kind of an axe. It's a long handle on it. It's not just like a little hatchet.
Yeah.
Anyway. And he was holding down a piece of wood, and he was chopping, and somehow the axe went over and chopped through his finger.
Oh, ouch. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So it severed the bone, but it didn't sever the skin. So he had to have the whole thing all, stitched back and put in a cast and everything. So right before Egypt, the cast did come off, but he still had kind of an issue with his hand.
Oh. No carrying baggage for him.
No carrying bags, and then I helped with that and whatnot.
And you had to keep track of all that on the long flight over. It's a long flight, yeah.
It is. That's probably the worst thing. I love travel,
I
but
do too.
I don't know anymore.
What airlines did you fly to Cairo?
Egypt Air.
Which is good, pretty good.
Yeah.
And very fair priced.
Yeah,
but you couldn't fly Egypt Air or Honolulu.
No, we had to go to New York. We went with Hawaiian Air to New York.
Oh, that's good.
And then we went Egypt Air.
So that's about 25 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 25 hours.
It
is. If you have a damaged hand, it can be a pain.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But But you did all this, and then that was pretty much it. And then you came home for just about how long? You were just home for...
I think 3 weeks.
And then you were off again.
Yes, and then he stayed home. And I went to Ireland with my same son, Matt Spangler, because he was presenting actually 2 things at the Irish Literary Festival, which happens in Kells every year.
Oh, I wanted to go there, yeah.
Oh.
Tell me about that.
So, it was amazing.
Well, your son hopped on he's in San Francisco. You met him in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And you flew on which airline to Ireland?
Aer Lingus.
That's a good flight.
Yeah.
And you went from San Francisco to...
Direct to Dublin.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, 10 hours later or so.
And of course, people have heard of the Book of Kells, right?
Yes. And I don't know if you saw my Facebook post, but we were in the church in Kells.
Is that in St. Patrick's Church or separate?
St. Columba.
Oh, St. Columba
Church. And it has a graveyard with beautiful Irish
the
Celtic crosses
yeah.
from the Middle Ages and things. Anyway, inside the church are some original pages of the Book of Kells. They're not all down there in Trinity College, by the way.
Oh, okay, I thought they were. Yeah.
Some of them are still up there in the church, and so you can go see them. It's a beautiful church. And anyway, the day after, Cameron Keyes with me on this trip, too. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah. Cameron Keyes, he directs the Maui Madrigal.
Oh, right.
And so...
Which you play.
And we play, we play in the band together. And he wanted to come to Kells, so we were all there. Matt, my son Matthew, and Cameron Keyes.
And this is a very old church in Kells.
Very old church.
Yeah.
The next day, Cameron came up to me and handed me a newspaper. And it said, archaeologists, big headlines. I guess it didn't make headlines in the United States. Archaeologists have determined that the Book of Kells was decorated by women.
I saw that in your Facebook post.
Yeah.
Jenny. That I had no idea. That was amazing to me.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful work, of course. All hand done and a lot of gold leaf.
Yeah.
And so you got to see that.
Yeah.
How does it look in person versus when? Because we see pictures and we see videos. What's it like?
It's so little and detailed, so fine. The detail is so fine that you know that it took a long time to sit there and do that. And hence, when I read that headline, it was done by women, I thought, yep.
That's a great story, right?
I get it.
Well, there was also an amazing, you're probably aware of this if you're in Ireland, there's an amazing saint, Brigida.
Yeah.
A lot of people know St. Patrick, of course, but Brigida was very, very honored. Brigida is an amazing saint that started her own nunneries and was a healer as well and very revolutionary for that time in Ireland and was the stuff that was like, I went to a couple of the sites there. They have a pool that's a sacred pool and stuff. It's on the West Coast in there.
Yeah.
But where else did you get to go in Ireland?
Okay, before the Kells trip, of course, we were in Dublin, and then my son Matt had rented a car, and we drove out to Connemara. First, we went to Sligo, because being a literature major, he wanted to see William Butler Yeats' grave.
Oh, yes. Well, if someone's saying they're just joining us and they don't know, Ginny Morgan's talking about her adventures. Her son is an amazing playwright and a professor, David Spangler. So Matthew Spangler. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Matthew Spangler, and we already talked about Cairo, but now we're talking about the trip they did to Ireland together. And so, okay, go back. I'm sorry. I had to let people know what we're talking about.
We this was a week before Kells. Our purpose to go there was Kells, and he drove us to Sligo, and we did some hiking.
Where's Sligo?
Sligo is north of Connemara. So it's like
the Connemara ponies, I remember.
Yeah.
That's on the other coast?
It's on the west coast.
Yeah, beautiful up
just
there.
Just north. Yeah, gorgeous scenery. You could access it by coming down from northern Ireland.
This would be like going from Kapalua if we go around the top or go back.
Yeah.
Which way do you go, right?
Kind of the same.
Which way did you go?
We went across the midsection.
And then went up.
Yeah.
After Shannon went and drove up. Which is a bit of a drive up.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. We stayed in Sligo and hiked around. There's some beautiful mountains for hiking. Mm-hmm. And then we came down to Connemara, and we stayed in a hunting lodge there. It's called Loch Ina.
I think I saw pictures of that. It was beautiful.
Beautiful.
Is it an old hunting lodge?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's on the lake.
It's on the lake, and it's out in the middle of nowhere, so it's quiet, and they have fantastic food. And we did hiking there. We did a little hiking.
You didn't bring any of your harps.
I didn't. I have done on certain trips, but I didn't on this one.
So you weren't playing.
Yeah. I would have loved to be, but, it's another thing to drag around when you're traveling. Anyway, then we came down from Connemara. We stayed there about 4 days, I think.
You didn't go over to the island with the ponies?
No. Okay. I would have loved to.
Yeah.
And then we went to Galway, and we stayed a couple of days in Galway. And
that's a big city.
It is.
I went through there. I was shocked how big Galway is.
Yeah.
And it's the home of a famous author and poet as well. I forget who.
There's quite a few people that of the authors and whatnot, literary people that have come from
and
that
they
area.
are honored in Ireland.
Oh, yes.
Their poets and their writers are honored in Ireland.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
We went to a medieval dinner at a castle, which is kind of my thing. I'm always looking to, get inspiration for my own medieval dinners because I've done them for years here, Renaissance Christmas dinners and whatnot. And in fact, we're doing the Maui Madrigal and my early music group. We're doing one for Kaunoa this year.
Oh, how nice is that?
In November. So I
have never been to one, Ginny. I feel bad. And I used to sing in madrigals when I was in high school.
Oh, well.
I was part of the Beverly Hills Madrigal Singers.
Oh, well, there.
And I've lost track of those days.
Oh, my
But
goodness.
I would love to see that. So I have to go to that.
You'll have to go to it. Kaunoa's sponsoring us this year. So that's
wonderful.
Great.
That's going to be.
So when we were in Galway, there was a great castle there. It's called Dunguire Castle. And right on the bay, and they have medieval dinners. And so,
you're actually in the castle.
Yeah, you're in the room
Is
where
there
people
music
actually,
and things?
They had a harpist.
Oh, my. Did you introduce yourself and say you play harp on Maui?
Afterwards, I went up and I got to play her harp, and, I talked to her. And the whole, instead of music like what we do, they did mostly readings from the literary giants of Ireland.
Oh, isn't that nice?
For the entertainment with harp music.
I love that.
Accompanied by harp music, which
that's fantastic.
That's really cool.
I would love to see that. So that was a memorable night.
That was fun.
Yeah.
All candlelight, and you're in this stone castle.
So how did you find out about these places? I mean, because you're talking about places, and I try to follow these places, and I've been to Ireland, I want to go back, but I've never heard of some of these places.
Yeah, just by Googling them, looking them up on the internet. I spent a lot of time researching
it, yeah.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now, your son, he had, it was a business trip for him in Kells.
Yeah.
Did he do any connection there for planning a show or anything? Was that...
Oh, he sure did. He this literary festival, it's 3 days of presenting. People present lectures, and most of the people that were there had produced a book about a certain. Most of it had concerned Irish literature, or Ireland, or Irish history, or something about Ireland. So you could go to these lectures that were hour long, and each person would present what their idea was, or their book, right? So my son Matthew. He was there for two reasons. First of all, there's a new author called, and you should really pay attention to this because it's on the most read list on Europe here. It hasn't got here yet, but it's called The Beekeeper of Aleppo.
I've heard of that.
It's coming. You have to reserve it on Amazon right now. But it's coming to the United States, and it's a bestseller in Europe, all over. Wow. Her name is Christina Leftari. I can say it right. Okay.
The Beekeeper of Aleppo.
The Beekeeper of Aleppo.
Was she there?
She wrote it. She was there, she wrote it. And together, Matt and Christina did a talk about, if I adapted your book to stage, this is how it would go.
So he might do the stage play.
And then she was supposed to react to that. It was kind of like they'd never gotten together yet to present these ideas. And she did then react to it, and say what she would like or what she wouldn't like or whatever. So they had a great conversation.
Well, your son specializes in, and we got a lot of people watching now, so hi, Kaylee, hi, Carlos, hi, Stephanie. Some people say it's magical. So your son specializes in refugees. Now, born here on Maui, because you've been here
Well, he was actually born in Wyoming.
In Wyoming.
Right.
Where does his interest in refugees come from, and how has this led him to be the professor now at the USC College in San Jose?
You know, I don't think I've ever asked him that. He went to Trinity College in Dublin.
Well, there's the connection right there, yeah.
And I think he had a different experience than what a lot of American college students have in that respect. He also went to a year in London, undergraduate college. So he was
aware of the refugee problem.
Yeah, yeah. So to tell you honestly, I've never quite asked him that. I'm glad he does take an interest in that. He lives in the Bay Area, which has a lot of Afghanistan refugees from all the problems in Afghanistan.
And because of his interest, it opened up the door for him to be able to connect with the author of The Kite Runner and to do this play. And I have to say, it's got to come to Broadway. It's got to come to America.
Oh,
Is there a reason why it hasn't hit here yet?
I'm not sure, but it should. I mean, because it's fantastic. Not that he's my son, but I'll have to tell you, it's better than the book and the movie. Maybe you saw the movie. But
I did see the movie, yeah.
Because, you know, the book is fantastic.
Yeah.
But when you have somebody on the stage actually talking about what is happening in the book.
For those of you who might not have read The Kite Runner, I mean, it's been a few years since it's been out. It's definitely a book you want to read. For number one, it's extremely well written. And it's a story that's spoken from the heart, from this experience that is so heart-wrenching and so real. About two young boys who are friends, right?
Right.
Maybe you could just say a little bit more on how this is relating to the stage play your son wrote.
Right. Well, in the book, the two boys get separated, and then they each have a different, track, depending on who they were and how much money they had and what ethnicity they are. And at the end of the book, of course, I don't want to give away the the end of the book, but they come back together in a way. So they discover what happened to each other.
And an extremely different lives based on that, right?
Yes.
Because one comes to America.
Right.
And the other doesn't.
And because he was of a group of people that were discriminated against, and which, by the way, they are still discriminated against. They're called Hazara, and it's not a Arab Muslim. It's a different kind of Muslim that's more Persian, so they're considered a different tribe, if you will. At any rate, it's a great book. It's a great play.
Where did you see his play first? It must have been amazing to be in the audience. Did you see it in London?
I've seen it here in San Jose was where it was first produced. I saw it there, and now I've seen it 7 other times.
Wow.
In Dublin and all over London, England. I've seen it in London.
And how is the response from the people?
Oh, it's always a standing ovation.
Wow.
And I'll tell you what, there isn't a dry eye in the house. You know that very last scene, and if you read the book.
It's been a few years. I read it when it first came out.
Yeah. And even grown men are crying. I mean, it's that touching,
So I'm getting the sense that you feel through these experiences you've gone through in Egypt and Jerusalem and Palestine and then in Ireland, that maybe this is the only hope we have for people to start understanding this situation that exists on a personal level.
Yeah, that really helps.
Yeah.
It really helps is when you hear somebody's original story, somebody's story about that. The Beekeeper of Aleppo is going to be, is about that, about Syrian refugees coming to England. So, and it's not just refugees, it's one story, one family that comes to England. So yes, I agree with you. Yeah.
So tell me on this amazing story. I mean, first I thought I was just going to talk to you for half an hour, but I mean, it's an amazing story. And number one, I want to find out about how you did all this research, because a lot of us dream of doing our own travels. And I do believe that it's always great to kind of create your own trip if you can. Two things keep that from happening sometimes. Fear, like in going to Cairo or going to Palestine for sure. It's like, I don't know if I want to go to Palestine. But you created a couple of adventures of a lifetime.
Yeah.
How did you go about doing that so other people can follow in your footsteps?
The best way, I'd say, is research and compare. You need to read different websites. You need to read what they say, what they offer, how much they charge. Places like TripAdvisor and Booking.com are great because you can read the reviews of the places you might be thinking about staying. Mm-hmm. If it looks really good as an advertisement, sometimes you read the reviews and it's like, you think, okay, I don't want to stay there.
That is always, I try to do that. But what's happened with TripAdvisor is you used to be able to book your own individual tour.
Yeah.
And now all of that tour is going through, and it's a good tour company, but it's all going through one tour company.
Right.
So, but the tour company hires local people.
Yeah.
But it's not like you can necessarily get the same price as you used to.
Right.
But you found some amazing deals, but it was because you went to the bed and breakfast, and then you were given the names there. So you didn't book your tours ahead of time in Egypt, right?
We booked some of them ahead of time, but also the bed and breakfast offered us some.
And that's a good way to go.
That's a good way to go because if I were to do it again, I might, not book so much ahead of time.
Yeah.
Not knowing Egypt, I was sort of thought maybe we should have a guide.
Right.
I always, wherever I go, I went to India last fall with one of my sons. I have 3 sons, by the way. And
it sounds like an amazing family.
Yeah. My other son wanted to go to India, so we booked it ahead, but we booked I booked it all. And it was a private guide with a car. Now, I advise that.
Yes. Yeah.
It's okay if you want to go with a big bunch of people. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. But instead of being on your own, I wouldn't exactly just show up on your own to these places. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for very cheap, in most of these countries that have a lower dollar value than ours, you can get a guide who'll show up with a car and they're knowledgeable and they will take you to exactly where you want to go. Mm-hmm. And you can sit in the car and ask them questions all day.
On your own schedule.
And on your own schedule.
You don't have to just be there 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then run back to a bus or anything,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll go in with you, and they'll show you things, and
they'll translate if you have to translate.
Yep. And, boy, I really like that. I always book that ahead of time, and then we plan to give them good tips.
Yeah.
In my opinion, one of the best things we can do as travelers is to tip well. It goes right to the people. Make sure it goes right into their pocket.
Right.
Not to the company.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And that is, and it makes such a different experience. The difference between having your own car, your own driver, someone you get to know. A lot of times people make really close friends with these people. You stay in touch, and if you ever go back, you get to know them and you trust them, and that is the way travel breaks down barriers.
Yes.
It breaks down the separatism. It breaks down prejudice. It breaks down. When you get to know their story, you get to know about their families. You probably hear about what's going on in their lives.
Sometimes you get to meet their families.
Yes.
They'll invite you over.
Yeah.
And I'm on Facebook with all of them.
Yeah.
And that's cool because then you get these little updates from all over the world where you've been. Just daily updates.
Well, you're such an amazing musician. Do any of these trips include you playing your harp?
Only the ones that we've gone to when we go to the Fringe Festival in Scotland.
Oh, what was that like?
Oh, man. That's a dream for performers.
We have 3 minutes. Tell me in 3 minutes what it's like.
Okay. It's a world festival of performance for music, books, art, literature.
In Edinburgh.
In Edinburgh. Every summer, all August. And you can go and perform there, which we have done 5 times now.
How did you work that out? Did you have to apply, or how does that work?
You have to be accepted. You have to send a video of you playing, and I sent in my early music group. We did Vivaldi, and we did Mozart, and we did Bach on all these different years.
And you go over, it's hard to carry a harp. You do a carry-on, or what do you do with your harp?
They don't do carry-ons anymore. They used to, the airlines, but you have to ship it all in steerage.
Don't you get nervous with your harp? And oh my, if that broke.
Yeah.
So you don't take your best harp on a trip? No. But insurance, for sure.
Yeah. They don't even insure it.
What?
The airlines won't insure anything over $100.
No.
That's right. If you tell them this is fragile, they say, well, that's fine, but $100 is our limit.
I did not know that. But you do your own trip insurance, right? That
you can do that.
Yeah.
That would cover it. But knock on wood.
Yeah.
We haven't had any bad luck.
And then, of course, there's the sensitivity to weather and everything. And
Changes.
does Alfie go with you and play flute, too?
Yeah. Oh,
a lot easier to carry a flute than a harp.
Yes. And he plays recorder also, so sometimes he plays recorder.
And what's it like when people hear your music there at the festival?
Well, it's fun. It's, you sign up for a time to play and you get a venue that you can go play at, and the audience, then afterwards everybody just goes to the pubs and hangs out and which is fun, and has a beer, and people will come up to you and say, I really like that, and
you get to meet them, and there's probably music in the pub as well.
Oh yeah, there's music in the street, and
I saw pictures of you doing music in Dublin. There was music in Dublin in some of the pubs you went to in Dublin. That's great music in Dublin, isn't it?
Yes.
I love the music in Dublin. It's a music country.
Yeah. They really value their music.
They do, and you can go to pubs, these pubs, some of them you've never heard of, and everyone from the town is there playing their music, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And music breaks down the barriers. It's like instant friends, and you get to talk to people, and as musicians you compare notes, right? And you get to make friends with that too.
And they don't use amplifiers, so that you can actually hold a conversation while they're playing.
They don't use amplifiers. Interesting.
It's so nice. It's so refreshing.
We have about a minute and a half, but what town did you go to in the pubs?
Well, mostly just the ones in Kells. And everywhere we were, there are just tons of pubs everywhere. Well,
I'm going to finish up our Facebook. Thank you, all of our wonderful friends, Stephanie and Carlos Aguilera and Sandy and Deborah, and more, Neil and Kyle and George, Cameron Keys and Laura and Jeff King and all them. Thank you so much for watching. So people can follow you, and they can follow you on Facebook, is probably because you're really very good on Facebook, right?
Yeah, I like to produce pictures, and publish pictures when I travel. And if anybody wants an advice or wants to know anything about, traveling or suggestions, I'm glad to help.
Well, and you know what? I think you really did it right. And I mean, I've been traveling all my life, and I followed you, and I was so completely impressed with the way you did your trip, with what you saw, and the way you connected with people, and the places you went to. And I'm like, next time I go to Ireland, I've got to go there. When I go to Egypt and go to Cairo, I've got to go to that bed and breakfast.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
And this is quite an amazing adventure that you created, and back to back like that. I mean, what a great experience, and it's so nice to know about your fantastic son. We'll have to do an interview with him sometime. We'll have to have him call in.
Yes, he'd like that.
Because I think it's just so fantastic that he's doing this wonderful work.
Yeah.
It's really, truly life-changing work that's making a difference. So,
yes.
So, I mean, that's just fantastic to hear. Matthew Spangler, right?
Spangler.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your beautiful stories and adventures with us, Ginny. It's just been wonderful. So a big aloha to you.
Well, thank you, Cindy. I really appreciate it.